I so appreciate when our special music is attuned and aligned with our purpose, our speech, our message for the day. I'm going to ask all of our practitioners and our practitioner interns to please stand and just be around our room. When we do a ritual, it touches something inside us. And in this center, we don't do a lot of ritual, although it's a ritual when we show up here on a Sunday morning or regularly appear at some event, when we light the candle of consciousness, when we speak or participate or hear a prayer or a meditation. And in recognition of remembering and honoring, I'm going to ask us to do a small ritual this morning. And I'll ask us to do it in silence. And I'll be calling forward different groups of people to stand. I would first invite those who have served in the armed forces or in the Peace Corps to stand and remain standing. Anyone who has served in the Peace Corps or the armed services. And those of us who have had a family member or a friend that served, please stand. And those of us who have had a family member or a friend who has stepped past this physical expression into their next spiritual expression, please stand. And if you want to honor by standing all of those known or unknown that may have served, please stand. So we are all standing. When we remember, it means to bring back together. Dismember is to cut apart. So in standing, we are remembering the love thread, that invisible thread that connects us always. And let us just take a moment of silence, remembering that love, that commitment, those gifts that have come to us from the past into the present. Thank you. You may be seated. I ask our practitioners to stand because they are trained in remembering the truth when we may have forgotten it. So in surrounding us, they are bringing that love and that truth light to each one of us, symbolically. So part of the way that we can remember and honor is to really look with gratitude at all of those gifts. All of the caring, or however it was or was not, that helped us to come to this place in this time. There's a song from Sound of Music that says, start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. So we start with A, because A is also the Alpha. God is all there is. It's the very beginning. And this morning I'd like to speak about a few A's that may help us to honor and remember as we're exploring this together this morning. that when we are aligned, the first day, aligned with Spirit, it makes our path easier. Because we remember we're not walking alone. When we are awake and aware to that power and that presence, it's another couple of A's. Then we are really remembering the limitless potential of Spirit. There is no end, no beginning, no end to that which Spirit has in its limitless storehouse. Sometimes I just visualize like this huge storehouse that goes clear to the heavens, and I cannot possibly see how far in any direction. That storehouse of that beauty and that good. And when we are attentive and accepting, God's love light is within all of us, wherever we encounter people, however we encounter them. And then another couple of A's is to be available to be that love presence. And out of that beingness, take the action that seems the most appropriate for us in that moment, being the God presence here and now. This morning when I was still in bed in that half-awake place, hymn that we used to sing in my little church in the country, open my eyes that I may see visions of truth thou hast for me. Place in my hands a wonderful key that shall unlock and set me free. Silently now I wait for thee. Ready, my God, thy will to see. Open my eyes, illumine me, Spirit divine. It says I'm available, I'm willing to align myself with, and remembering all there is God. In quantum physics, we're reminded that what we are looking for is what we see. So when we are looking for our alignment, when we are looking for the places in which we are being that Spirit God in expression, then more of that appears. If you've been in classes, you've heard, let's see, where my attention goes, my energy flows, and the result shows. And guess what? When my energy is on, oh my goodness, they're doing it again, da 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 da, then that's what more shows up. Ernest Holmes in The Science of Mind said if we have a spiritual nature, and if that spiritual nature is rooted deep in the mind of the infinite, that which has no beginning and end, then it follows that there is a place that reaches down into the infinite Spirit, and the answer to every problem exists even before the problem is put to our own mind. So already Spirit is at work right here, right now. When we are aligning our consciousness with Spirit, because consciousness is everything, then it's easier to deal with those disappointments. You know, I had an appointment because I expected it to be this way, and there was a disappointment because it didn't appear the way I wanted it to be. Or those little issues that come up. I don't know about you, but as loving as our families are, Richard and I have combined 5 offspring, and all those 5 have families, and we have 12 grandchildren, and we are all loving, and we love each other. And guess what? Stuff still shows up sometimes. Ever notice that? As loving as I am? No. And as loving as they are. So we get to come back again and again and again. It's like the prodigal son. We go off to that far place and, oh, yes, I get to come back, aligning with God. Now, there's a little technique that I use and that some of you have experienced because you've been in my classes. If you'll just play with me and touch your first finger to your thumb. And we're going to just go touch, 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 touch with all of our fingers in order. And the first touch is, I'm not in charge. Do it with me. I'm not in charge. Let's try that one again, just to get it anchored. I'm not in charge. Now the other part of it is, God within's in charge. God within's in charge. Lest we forget, let's try it again. Remember. God within's in charge. Now, the fascinating thing about this, I wish I could remember where I originally got the first part. I'm not in charge. However, I do know that it really works. And recently, I was reminded that the finger touching is actually with both hands is part of an Eastern meditation. And it's with Satanama. Satanama. Just repeated over and over and over again. So there's something that anchors it within us, that anchors it in our brain and our heart and our being that says, oh, God within's in charge. For all there is God. So when we're aligned, we can discover again that what we're looking for, what we're looking at, is what we get more of it. And being awake and aware, we can see that how many of us seem to be leaders in some kind of a group. And as a leader, we can set the tone, we can set the key of the music that we're going to play, we can set the rhythm, but the whole music comes out of everyone together because we are awake and aware together. And another thing to be awake and aware about is our freedom of choice. A beautiful thing to think about this weekend particularly. Our freedom to choose moment by moment, not only what I put my attention on, but how I either respond or react. There's a story told of a reporter that went to a camp where there were captured soldiers, and the soldiers that had been captured were given a choice to stand in front of the firing squad or to go through the door that was marked unknown horrors. Unknown horrors. And what was noted that most chose the firing squad over what was unknown. And in truth, the door to unknown horrors was the door to freedom. So let us just look. What are we noticing in our life? And are we stopping ourselves from stepping through the door of whatever the unknown is in our free choices and honoring that there is a guidance system within us that is prompting us and that is caring for us, directing us wherever choice we make and wherever we are. Remembering to be attentive and accepting. Accepting. Ernest Holmes would remind us that we can't contract the infinite. We can't make smaller that which is infinite. That we can expand what is our consciousness here today. We can expand this. This is the finite. When I was 11 or 12, I sang with kids in my little church. And I played the piano sometimes and harmonized. My great-grandfather passed, and he had requested that at his funeral, one of my friends, a boy that I sang with often, and I sing in the garden at his funeral. Simple little song. I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses. Just says, I come. I'm open and receptive. And it goes on that God walks with me, talks with me, tells me I am his own, her own, its own. We are one. And the joy that we share as we tarry there, no other has ever known. Because we cannot create someone else's joy, someone else's awareness. We get to create our own, don't we? Accepting that which has already been given to us, so that we can truly be bearers and sharers of that God light. Or we could be bearers and sharers of doom and gloom. But when we do that, then we just reap more doom and gloom, don't we? There's a principle involved. We plant those seeds, that's what comes up. The question is, are we willing to accept everyone just the way they are? And notice that sometimes they may look like God in disguise, not look like I expect it. Is God showing up in overhauls and doing the work? I don't know. Are we willing to honor and remember and be grateful and available to be that God expression? Available to do whatever our inner guidance said. A minister friend had written an affirmation that I had in my files, and she spoke this and wrote this with such power. I wanted to share it with you this morning. She said, I can feel it, almost see it. There is electricity in the air which urges life to live, fully live. It calls to fully know yourself, uppercase self, God's self. Accept the challenge of your life. Experience it all. I am the Word, God said. All this and more are you. I am the Word. And then she said, I accept your task for me. My task is not your task. I get to live the life I have. You get to live the life you have. Being your own unique God expression of light and love. In gratitude, honoring and remembering, let us choose to be active. We can sit and get it and feel it and understand it. And if we just keep sitting, it's good stuff. But taking action to express it moves it out into the world. This center is present because one person took action and got another person and another and another and another. And it has been in existence for what, 40 years? Yes. Because one took action, and one. And through the years, through different ministries, through different formations, through different names, it's been known as Visalia Church of Religious Science, Spiritual Awareness Center, Church of Religious Science, and now we're part of a greater organization called Centers for Spiritual Living. It doesn't matter what the name is. What matters is the commitment to be available and take the action from that place of that God Spirit. So we honor that. And sometimes our honoring is because we have seen something that we didn't choose. Some of you are familiar with the Dr. Rachel Raymond, R-E-M-E-N. She's a medical doctor and a psychiatrist and has done lots of counseling. She was a brilliant medical doctor. And then she shifted and found her heart to go with her brilliance through her counseling. She tells in Kitchen Table Wisdom or something like that, she tells the story of her father, who was a second-generation immigrant parents. And her father always worked 2 jobs. She would come home from school. He'd be sitting exhausted in his chair, sleeping with his feet in a pan of warm water because he'd been on his feet all day. Hard-working man. But whenever something happened, he'd say, well, it's the luck of the Raymonds. It's the luck of the Raymonds. This didn't happen. It's the luck of the Raymonds. And that was the way she grew up. All these things that happened, the luck of the Raymonds. She just thought that was the way it was. He bought a lottery ticket, and he checked it out, and he had winning numbers. And then something happened, and he ended up in the hospital, but he didn't want to turn in the ticket. And because he was afraid somebody was going to misrepresent it, or somebody was going to take things away from him. And he actually taped the ticket to his chest while he was in the hospital. And he would not let his wife or any of his family members go and redeem that ticket. He finally got out of the hospital, and the ticket was about to expire, and he was still in fear. Somebody was going to take that money away from him. They were going to cheat him. He finally got the money. He never spent it, because if he spent it, somebody would know he had the money and they would try to take it away from him. He finally retired and he and his family used to dream. They lived on a 6th-floor apartment, small apartment. He used to dream about owning a house. And they'd talk about it and talk about it. So when he retired, his mom and dad bought this little house out in the country. She went to visit one day, and her dad was asleep in his chair. And so she said to her mom, how are things going? She said, well, Dad's tired. What's going on? Well, he took a little job because, things are always needing to be repaired, and they fall down, and so we needed to have some more money. And this went on. When are you going to take a vacation? Oh, we can't take a vacation because, people come around and they find your house is empty. Always somebody had to be home. They couldn't even go out to see a movie together because they were in such fear that somebody would come in and take away their stuff, their things. So she said, he had a windfall that he could not accept. And she said, my windfall was to understand I can accept my good. I can accept what life is offering me. And she's taken that into her practice. Let us act from our divine connectedness. He was using the principle. He was using it that continued to disempower him. And Rachel looked at that and said, I can use, in essence, the same principle and use it to empower my life and empower the lives of others, which she has done through the years. So remembering, honoring, that right now in this moment, we are already aligned in spirit. We don't have to go anywhere. We don't have to do anything. Just stay awake to it. Wake up to it. That's all. Somebody the other day said, what about those people that are going around doing things that they shouldn't be doing? When something came up about it, the presence, God, love, being in God and being in everyone. It's a total stranger. Ended up a conversation with me. I said, it's just that they're not awake. He said, oh, hadn't thought about it that way. Being awake to our spiritual nature. Being available to its power and presence, to the love. Accepting that love intelligence working in through us. And then actively expressing that divine presence in your own unique way. At your workplace, where you go to the post office, the grocery store, wherever you are, Wherever you are being present, be present as that God expression. So I'm going to ask you to affirm with me as we close today, remembering I am aligned with God. Remembering I am aligned with God. I sense and know I'm a divine expression. I sense and know I'm a divine expression. I'm committing to stay awake to this truth. I'm committing to stay awake to this truth. I accept that I'm a love light. I accept that I'm a love light. I say, yes, I'm available. I say, yes, I'm available. Honoring the wholeness of life. Honoring the wholeness of life. I am actively expressing the presence of love. I'm actively expressing the presence of love. And so it is.